you were to tell general population to track one metric, what would it be?
You're the most decorated racquetball player in U.S. history. World's strongest man. From childhood passion to professional athlete. 8-time Ironman champion. So what was it like making your debut in the NHL? What is your biggest piece of advice for the next generation of athletes? From underdogs to national champions. This is the Athletes Podcast, where high-performance individuals share their triumphs, defeats, and life lessons to educate, entertain, and inspire the next generation of athletes. Here we go.
We can first start off by introducing manual osteopath. Is it officially doctor? There's different terms down in the States that you get on.
No, so the United States is an allopathic field. It's traditional. So osteopaths down there, like if I went down and did my master's there, I'd be considered an osteopathic doctor and I could prescribe like prescription medicine.
Right.
Right, because during World War II when all the surgeons went off for the war, osteopaths were granted the ability to prescribe medicine and do everything else. So Canada's a bit different. So I'm a manual osteopathic therapist, yes. Manual because it's my hands.
Mm-hmm.
I'm touching tissue, I'm touching bodies. You're manipulating. I mean, I don't use tools outside of this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, having said that, if it's like a calcium formation or a bone issue, I mean, I've got a shockwave machine in there. I've got all the other toys. But when I'm treating as an osteo, it's just me and my hands, and you can feel what's wrong with the body.
I'm excited for this conversation. You obviously were introduced to me through In Goal Mag, David Hutchison and Kevin Woodley. Obviously, as a manual osteopath, you've worked on NHL, AHL, ECHL, WHL athletes. We're in the athlete's den here today recording. We're going to get a bit of work done. You're going to explain kind of the work you do, some 5 steps, I believe, that you specifically refer athletes to on a daily basis.
Yep.
Something that I should probably incorporate into my routine after traveling on the road for the past year and a half with Phoenix. I definitely need some work. So
100%.
There's probably going to be some serious improvements in what I can do over the next 30, 45 minutes. And hopefully the athletes listening are going to gain a ton of value from these next couple minutes in this conversation. Where do you want to start off? Do you want to maybe give a bit of background on your knowledge, how you got into the space?
Sure.
Because you're 2 decades in physically with your hands, but
Sure.
You're also still teaching. You're basically at the pinnacle of what I would say is elite sport performance.
I've had a lot of fun, is what I would say. And honestly, I'm 46 years old, and I feel like I've lived about 5 lifetimes now, is what I would say. I mean, I started off originally going to school. I was at Dougie Daycare in New Westminster. No one knows what that one is. And I was studying environmental science because I was going to go into biological engineering at UBC Van. I was going to look at habitat restoration, habitat management. And then it was my second year and I had to take some electives. And I found this sports science stuff. I'm like, oh man, I was an athlete my entire life. Like high performance swimming from age basically 6 until I was 18, professional rugby all over the place, right? So I took a course and I'm like, it lit me up, loved it. I was like, oh my God, like, why would I not study anything else? And there's actually Dr. Alan Chin, he's now retired, but he actually lit me up the best with his explanation of things. And it had a spark that was there. And I completed my first year of the sports science at Douglas and then transferred to UBC Vancouver. And I was there for the next decade, undergraduate, graduate work. So I've researched exercise physiology. I've looked at respiratory physiology. My undergraduate degree was kines combined with a bit of health therapy. I ended up being the head trainer for UBC Rugby, then UBC Football. And all that means is I've seen just about every which way the body can break and bend or twist or snap. And I've had the opportunity the blessing and the opportunity of abundance to just get enough hands-on. So I practiced in my field as a kinesiologist. My first company was actually kinesiologist.ca, still runs today. This is the 5th gym I've had in my lifetime. I've taught Capilano University, Quest, UBC Van, UBCO I taught sessionally here in town.
Yeah.
I've taught at massage schools. I teach in the osteopathy program, the Manual Osteopathic College of Canada still. You have to give back, and teaching is one of the best forms of mastery for your craft. I mean, I've never been asked so many questions in such a different way that I have to think about the information.
Right.
1, for what they're actually trying to ask me, and then 2, for what type of learner they are and how to deliver it. So from that scenario, as an osteopath, the teaching enhances my practice so greatly. And now, I've seen a bunch of bodies, I've seen a bunch of players. I've been fortunate enough with abundance that I've met people, in the industry, they've met me, and there seems to be a real need, a real lack of this. And there's no such thing as maintenance. And I don't understand why we're on this path of 2 times a week for a year. Here, please pay me your $10,000 or whatever it is. It doesn't make any sense. If you're a great therapist, I've said it before, it's 3 to 5 sessions and you're done. That's it. And it's not hard.
I had a physiotherapist who I went and did my humanities co-op in high school with. So I spent 3 weeks learning from him. It was my buddy's dad, actually. And he recommended to me, he's like, if you could do anything, it would be become an osteopath. And I was like intimidated at the time. I wasn't a biology body guy, so I was like, not interested. Now looking back, I'm like, the knowledge that you have in this field is so applicable across every board. So I'm just jealous in that aspect. So now I get to selfishly ask questions
100%.
And hopefully improve. But one of the things that you get as an osteopath is seeing all these different bodies, seeing the range of abilities in these bodies. One of the things I've heard you said is that if you're born with that range, you should have it for your life, theoretically, right? Phoenix and I watched Barry Sanders' documentary this morning. I don't know if you've seen the way that guy's body moved. It's not like anyone else in the world. And I want to maybe show some clips at some point, but I'm curious, are there specific athletes that you work with that you see that have tremendous abilities and that you should maybe try and emulate? Is it gymnastics as kids growing up? Is it swimming? What should young athletes be doing so that they can seek out that peak performance?
It's an interesting conversation. So when I taught human growth and development, that course was about the different critical periods in development of a human being from conception. So from fertilization of the egg, all the critical periods that occur for formation of the organism up to adulthood when the epiphyseal plates ossify. So for kids, anyone, so for males below the age of 17, females below the age of 15 and 16, they should be doing as many movement patterns in as many sports as possible. And I've said this before and other things, like how we're going about it with single sport athletes and this focus on single sport, we're fundamentally damaging our children long term. And we're doing that in such a way where if we're not regularly using a motor pathway, which means we're not touching it on a regular basis, so by the age of 10, if we haven't been using it, our body decides that, well, I don't need to maintain that from a calorie perspective, so therefore I'm going to lyse that pathway and end it. So if I have only ever played hockey, and I've only ever skated, and I was a skater, and I was a center, that's all I've ever practiced, well, what about lateral movement like tennis? What about lateral movement like racquetball or squash? What about, foot-eye coordination from field sports that involve like soccer, right? We don't develop those pathways, so therefore I haven't developed a fully functioning organism. So if I'm going to be a single sport athlete, having all those fundamental movement patterns and primitive movement patterns already developed and ingrained, when I decide to specialize, I'm much more successful. And the top NHLers that are out there, like the McDavids, the Crosbys, all these guys, if you look at their resume of physical activity as a youth, it was so diverse. And that's why they have the abilities to do what they do now, because if I'm regularly using it, at least I touch it like once every 3 weeks, my body will keep it. But if I don't allow the neurology to continually be tested, it's like, I don't need this, right?
Honestly, that clip alone is all I frankly want to be able to share with the world. Like, that is one of my main missions with the Athletes Podcast, not only to educate, entertain, and inspire the next gen, but to make sure that they know that playing hockey from the age of 5 years old until 20 is not going to be the road to the NHL. You're probably going to just develop crazy movement patterns, have one overdeveloped side from pulling faceoffs back and taking slap shots. And then after hockey's done, what the heck are you going to do? You're never going to be able to socialize, go for a round of golf with friends because you've never played the sport. And you're never going to be able to play pickleball, squash, tennis. I can't thank you enough for just at least saying that. Where else do you see people, maybe athletes in particular, falling short when it comes to movement?
So that's a multifactorial question and also a double-edged sword in some way. So first off, we're failing our athletes in the quality of the therapists we're providing. Blunt statement, but it's true. You won't find me circling a junior A team because the affordance isn't there, right? Now, I do some work with junior A kids in town, and some work's volunteer, some work's not, right? But I only have so many hours in the day. I mean, I have 3 daughters. I've got life that I have to live. But for our athletes, the quality of therapists that we're getting for the money we're willing to pay, right? And this goes right up to the show level. There's therapists there that they're trying to do what they can, but there isn't the budget to maintain the athletes. So you've got a payroll that's north of $60 million, and you've got a trainer you're paying $70,000 US that might not be the guy.
Isn't that crazy?
It's actually not part of it, and that's part of the problem. So last year I had to fly a couple times, and sadly, these are show level guys. The team cannot know I'm there. So the Uncle Jimmy's coming to town. You should meet Uncle Jimmy, is what the sentence goes. And that's how I met the one guy that he had hip surgery, and he was being trained back. And the trainer from this team sent him to some speed power guy down in California that did plyometrics in a circuit format, where each round was like 480 to 500 reps, which completely violates any science that's out there, because an elite athlete can do 100 touches of plyos, or 120 max, which is over jump as a touch. The end of his first circuit on the very last exercise, and this is a guy trying to rehab from a hip issue, about to go back to play, blows his Achilles tendon. Just snaps it. Nice, sweet Russian kid. He was 24 years old when I saw him, and I mean, he thought he was done. Hips couldn't move, everything else. And it's actually a funny story, because as an osteo, I worked on him, and it was just a lack of internal rotation because his hip socket was impacting because of the neurological muscle tension. When I fixed it, in his Russian accent, he was just like, "What is this?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "It no hurt." And I'm like, "Okay, well, that's good, isn't it?"
Yeah.
Like, no, it no hurt. And then he looks over at the gentleman that brought me down there. He's like, "What is this magic?" I'm like, and all it was he was so torsioned at his hips and nobody looked at it yet. This is a guy that he went on to actually sign a 2-year, $1.125 million deal. After that, I worked with him a few more times. When the team was up playing the Canucks, I flew down because Vegas was there, and I saw a couple guys treating in the hotel room. Uncle Jimmy has come to watch.
And you can make a blunt statement like the fact that the therapists that are working on these guys maybe aren't at adequate levels because you worked for the Canucks for 6 years doing their work.
Well, I did preseason evaluation under Dr. Ted Rhodes, yeah. So that was through Buchanan Exercise Science Labs. And it's not so much a blunt statement, it's just more, hockey is a world where you can grow up within an organization. So the gentleman that was the stick boy can slowly work his way up to being the equipment manager and then a trainer, which is, well, and some teams don't allow this, some teams do, just because it's that culture of...
Old boys club.
Yeah, well, there's a bit of that for sure. And I mean, I've always railed against it. It's why you don't see me publicly around there, because if... I've gone to bat for my players, and I've had some challenges in relationships, even locally here with the team, that I housed a kid in my house for free for 6 months to rehab him because the team screwed him up that much. Played him with a broken clavicle, and called him a pussy in front of the team, said he had to play, and he had a broken clavicle. They thought it was fine, but it healed with scar tissue, and then he got boarded in a game probably 4 months later, and the scar tissue severed and the clavicle popped up. By the time he went for surgery, he had to have cadaver bone grafts, cadaver tendon grafts, because the bone was starting to die. And then this was during COVID, so he kind of got dropped off the side of the cliff, and it was his 20-year bone.
Oh my
so I got him back. No, he ended up getting his 20-year, he ended up getting a Scully, so it all worked out. But it's like, I housed him for 6 months. When he first came into this place, he couldn't even push the bar. So.
How good does that feel for you to be able to do to someone like over
It's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I see this every day though, from regular people to elite athletes, whatever. You see the change, and it is rewarding in the sense that yes, you have a craft that has benefit, and it also, this isn't a job for me.
Right.
This is truly a passion project. I love what I do. It's why I teach. I mean, every second Wednesday of the month in here, all my osteo students that I teach are here, and I close my gym down and I open up for free treatment to the public just so my students get practice. And that's not something that any other sort of facility or instructor in the program does. That's just me, because I have this space and because I want to, one, educate the world about what could be happening, and then two, I want to offer the students the same affordances I had. I mean, the reason I sit in front of a lot of people is because I've literally screwed up that much because I've just had that much opportunity. And I've done a few things right.
And that's actually how my parents both got treatment. They came down to visit you in Vancouver when you offered that. Was it at the Pacific Inn or something, I think?
Yeah, that would have been at the college. Yep. So there's a Pacific Coastal College of Massage Therapy where the manual osteo program runs. So I was facilitating a program in Vancouver once a month. I now have one in Vernon once a month that I'm doing as well. And then I travel as well. But yeah, so they came in. And yeah, they had some issues.
They both were enamored at what you've.
But it was awesome with them because they came in. So Blaine, another osteo of mine out of Calgary, wonderful guy. So undergraduate kinesiology, master's in biomechanics, then he became a massage therapist, then he became an osteopath. Like just,
Just checking off the boxes, eh?
literally. So him and me, we go down rabbit holes. Like every time we're facilitating together and teaching, we stay in the same hotel and we go for breakfast, and the conversations we have, like you're really talking about type 1 afferent fibers and how they affect visual spatial. And it's like, I love the conversations because
I'm going to just go along with what he said and pretend like I knew what that meant.
yeah, I'm able to have conversations in the deep and in the weeds, which I love. The challenge with me is dialing back sometimes. So
How do you dial it back then? Because when you're talking with a 16-year-old athlete, or let's say a 17-year-old athlete, goaltender, for example, who maybe is just like, hey, my lower back is sore, my hips are tight, I'm not getting the movement I need. And you're like, you've got all these issues. You could go super deep from an academic standpoint and explain to him, but you need to really say, hey, you just need to do these kind of movements.
So education is the best tool you can ever have in your life. So I speak to an athlete like they're a student of mine, and I explain and I teach them along the way. Like I had wonderful kid, Brudencape, back in the day. He's now, he just graduated from out east. But first time he was in here, and I've got a cell lysing lactate analyzer where I can actually draw blood, lyse the red blood cell, and tells me your exact lactic acid at that speed or wattage. So I was testing him, and I was explaining to him, and he just looks at me and goes, so Jimmy, I got no blank idea what you're talking about. And I looked at him and, don't worry, son, you will. And by the end of summer, he was walking into the room as I was running the data, and he's like, what's the lactate at? And I'm like, oh, it's 3.68. Oh, he's not at his lactate threshold. I'm like, no, he's not. It occurs at 4. He's asking me the questions, and I looked at him like, now you know, son.
Yeah.
But the fact that I do that, and I'm going to say this in a very specific way, when you educate an athlete properly and you give them the power of knowledge, they know the difference between horseshit and whipping cream. Yeah, you might have to bleep that one out, sorry. I have to be blunt on it. So when I deal with an athlete, I'm direct, but I also have models. Like I've got little pelvic girdles, and I can explain everything. I can explain what torsions are and how it looks, and I got skeletons that I can bring out, and I have a female pelvic floor, I have a male pelvic floor, so I can actually explain the anatomy and what I'm doing, right? And then when I talk to them about the neurology, so even Maddie, one of the goaltenders we're sort of aligned with, he understands it now too. And I mean, when they ask me a question, well, it's when I was growing up as a kid, my aunt was up at SFU, in the library, and if you asked her a question, she would give you the full explanation. Remember once when I was 6, I asked her why the sky was blue. She actually explained how light particles reflect off a certain light wave in the sky, and that's why it glows blue, and yada yada. So that's how I was raised. So when people ask me questions, I'm like, well, you asked.
Yeah.
So here we go.
Again, what you asked for.
But then there's enough analogies along the way where you can kind of relate it and dumb it down.
Right.
But I don't ever want to dumb it down. I want individuals to understand, so that way when they're speaking with somebody and they hear these words, okay, I recognize that one. They can hear it in the same way or structure the same way. Okay, that's a good path. Versus not having any knowledge and just going by what people say. And that currently happens at the show level everywhere.
I equate it to like education, where you're regurgitating your answers on a test compared to actually being able to act out what you need to do to solve the problem. And there's two very different forms.
It's the how and the why.
Yeah.
A lot of people just have the why, no clue on the how. Right? They can talk to you about the anatomy, they can talk to you about the injury, they can talk to the incidence of this occurrence of in the human population. But then, well, how do you deal with it? And that's a lot of stuff that's lacking at a university level. University is now, I mean, I was at UBC man for 10 years. I understand. You're getting a lot of theory, but there's not a lot of hands-on practical. And that's what's missing, is that how. So I think we're getting some really intelligent human beings come out that we just need to do a bit more work on showing them what I call the way.
So how do you balance, like we talked about before we started recording, the NHL maybe not caring about science as much now, whereas there's results that we're seeing. Players are skating faster now than they were a decade or two ago. So you're like, okay, tangible results on one hand, but they're not caring about the science. Is that?
Well, some teams are, some teams aren't. I mean, like Vegas is, I don't know, man, the way they go through. I mean, 2 seasons ago, they had a PhD in exercise physiology as one of their head people. And so there are teams out there that do, and there's other teams that don't. I mean, some teams still run a beep test on the ice, which Why would you make a goaltender do a beat test? A goaltender is not an anterior posterior athlete; they're a lateral athlete. Why are they even skating lines?
Yeah.
Right. So there's that level of science that we're lacking. But the other side, VO2 max cards, blood lactate analyzers, like all this other stuff that we used to use back in the day. Some teams still do. Some teams do a modified Wingate. I know the Penguins do a specific protocol where it's like 5 on, 15 off, then like 20 on, 5 off, and then they mix it because they're looking at peak power and sustainable peak powers over time from repeated shifts. With the Nucks back when we were there, we did a 45-second Wingate with 9% of your body weight, that's not a pleasant experience.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, you had to sit still in the chair and couldn't move while we drew your blood and analyzed the blood lactate. Because 1, we wanted to see how much you could generate, but 2, how quickly did you clear it? Because if I understood your clearance rate, then I can make predictions on rest between shifts. So now you're equipping a coach with science. You're equipping a coach saying, okay, well, Sedin's need approximately 30 seconds, Bertuzzi needed a minute.
True.
You could cycle your lines.
Interesting.
Right.
So how do you say I'm the coach of the local Semi-Ama Ravens in White Rock, South Surrey, and I don't have the ability to analyze my players' blood lactate levels and how they're going to perform if they get double shifted?
Simple things you could do. I mean, honestly, a 12-lap run is still one of the best predictors of VO2 max.
Okay.
How fast you can run 12 laps of a track. Strong correlation to your VO2 max. So that's one way to do it. 12-lap run's easy. Your thresholds themselves, so your fat metabolism called beta oxidation, it turns off at 2 millimoles of blood lactate, which is approximately the time where you can no longer say 15 words comfortably.
Right.
So if you can exercise and have a conversation where you can say 15 words without struggling,
Zone 2.
You're in beta oxidation. Yes, on the 5-zone model, it's zone 2 now.
Okay.
You can use a 5-zone, 7-zone, 11-zone, however you want to slice the onion, depending on the level of depth. If you're going to go to hemoglobin dissociation curves and all the other stuff, for hockey, a 5-zone model is perfectly fine.
Okay.
So that's zone 2 beta oxidation, which every athlete needs because it's the only thing that spares glycogen. You get 400 molecules of ATP plus for 1 triglyceride, whereas you only get 32 to 34 for glucose or glycogen, or glucose respectively, with oxygen. Without oxygen, you only get 3 to 4.
Wow.
Right, so fat is especially for a goalie.
Yeah.
Beta oxidation needs to be high, and the next one's your lactate threshold, which is zone 4.
Okay.
Right? And that you can train real hard because if your legs are burning and you want to throw up, well, you're above your lactate threshold. Now, if they're still burning, but you can do it for 3 minutes, well, then you're just below it. Super easy.
I've heard of athletes supplementing with ATP. Or is that it?
What I'll say to that one is, so the lab that I was at UBC, so Buchanan Exercise Science Labs, way back in the day, there were 7 studies that was done out of there, researching creatine. We found the largest effect was the training stimulus, not the supplement.
Okay.
So if I do 30 reps of 5-second sprints where I separate 30 seconds rest between, take a 10-minute break, repeat that 3 times, then my creatine stores are naturally higher than taking any supplement.
Hope you're having a great day. Hope you're enjoying this episode of the Athletes Podcast. Today is an exciting day because we get to announce that we are finally partnering with Perfect Sports Supplements. As you can see here, they are the best in the business. Today, we are specifically focusing on Altered State pre-workout. We just spent the weekend over in Victoria at Supplement King's 100th store opening. And who were we there with? The world's strongest man, Mitchell Hooper. You want to know what pre-workout Mitchell Hooper uses? Altered State pre-workout from Perfect Sports Supplements. Do you want to know what pre-workout I use? Altered State pre-workout. I'll be honest, I don't need to use this every single day. If I have a great sleep, if I'm feeling energized, got a ton of food in my system, I'm comfortable. Don't necessarily always need it, but when I need energy, when I need a pump, when I need focus, I take Altered State pre-workout. It's the best in the business. It's increasing blood flow. It's increasing energy. You got over 8 grams of citrulline malate, over 3 grams of beta alanine, and like 40 plus B vitamins and minerals. Between the boost in metabolism, the cognitive performance, the energy, the pump, you can't beat it. This is Altered State's pre-workout, the best in the business. Mitchell Hooper said it in his episode. If you haven't tried it yet, please give it a shot, test it out. Use the code AP20 at checkout at perfectsports.com. That's AP20 to get 20% off your very own Perfect Sports products, whether you're getting diesel protein, whether you're getting Altered State pre-workout or Hydro Splash to stay hydrated. Check out Perfect Sports. The Athletes Podcast is now powered by Perfect Sports. We've been using it for years. Now it's your turn if you're not already. Hope you're having a great one. Let's enjoy the episode.
We just had a little 20-minute hiatus there where you basically shared some really crazy stories that I want to get you to bring up again. But to be able to go from someone who's viewed as competition to then eliminating that so that you're continuing to just up-level the industry, the space, the high performance. How do you... For you, like, how do you spend 5+, 10+ hours working with your hands? Like, I can't even give Phoenix a 5-minute foot massage with my thumbs not hurting.
Well, it's like anything, you develop tolerance through training. And I mean, when I first started out, my hands would get sore, but now I've got these massive bear paws.
Yeah.
Now my thenar eminence on this hand is actually double the size of my other one.
Okay.
So which hand I treat with a little more. But you develop a tolerance over time, but it's also, I take care of myself as well. In the sense I do the little things at home or off hours between clients. If I'm a little sore here, I can shockwave myself. I can do treatment on myself. I try and make sure that I'm revving properly as well.
And you're feeling your body, obviously, right now. You talked about your carnivore diet, 44 days. That's has it been difficult?
No. Well, yes and no, because I quit everything. I stopped everything. I went to just water. Right.
Even with your caffeine?
Yeah, well, the caffeine, I'm back on it a little bit. You gotta have one addiction in life, right? But yeah, no, I did stop everything at first for 30, and that was a bit of, if you get headaches and all that. But it was interesting because I wanted to explore my own physiology, and like I said, in a bit of downtime there, I don't speak to something unless I've personally tried it, because otherwise it's ignorance. So for me, I wanted to understand what my athletes and these players were talking about. So I went strict at first, and I'm still strict right now. Reason being is my partner decided to join me along the path, so I thought I'd support for another 30 days, which I'm definitely looking forward to a raspberry.
Yeah, I bet.
I'm drooling just at the thought of a raspberry, actually, because I'm like, that would be real good right now.
I've heard it resets all of your receptors, though, and everything afterwards.
There's a lot of very interesting research, and my brain is one where I don't read other people. Like, how can I put this one? I go straight to literature. So I'll go to Google Scholar or PubMed or Sport Discus, and I'll just start pulling studies. And there's some really cool studies I've walked into, even studies on looking at how the brain functions on a glucose molecule or glycogen molecule versus a ketone molecule. And there's some research where they're looking at MRI imaging and how the brain lights up. And what they're finding is with a simple sugar like glucose, it's kind of like a little spark. It's like, and then turns off. Now, when a ketone hits it, it's like a patch lights up, where it's like, and there's this patch of the brain that lights up bigger. So there's some interesting literature there.
Are you messing around with fasting?
Oh, I am, yeah, 100%. I'm doing 16 and 8s min.
Okay.
Now I'm going to I've done 36s, I've done 72s. On this path so far, I've been trying to stick to 16 to 20 just because I wasn't sure.
Right.
And now that I'm at the tail end, I'm going to explore a bit more with that, because there is... When you look into the research, if you just take your pancreatic beta cells and the insulin production, it takes 16 hours for the human body to drop into gluconeogenesis. That means where your blood sugars drop 20% and your liver now has to spit out all of its stored glycogen to keep you going. It's 16 hours to get to that stage. But when you get to that stage, the beta cells of the pancreas get a chance to turn off and breathe. Whereas our current society and the way we currently eat and the sugars that we're feeding ourselves, the beta cells are overworked, and that's when we start to get into impaired glucose tolerance, which is the early stages of metabolic or type 2 diabetes. And then we get into impaired glucose function, which now you have type 2 diabetes and you're insulin dependent. It's because we're never giving it the break. So that's been interesting to explore. And I will say day 7, I want some sugar. It's like, little crack addict. I'm like, just give me some sugar now. Right? And then once that was passed, I was settled in pretty good. And now it's like everything. Like, there's no alcohol, there's no nothing. It's just simple. And I'll tell you, the quality of my sleeps, the rapid eye movement sleeps I'm getting now, I'm getting 7 to 9 cycles a night, which is...
You tracking?
No, I'm tracking. I track everything.
I just didn't know. I didn't see any wearables on. So.
Not right now, no. So when I'm treating, I don't wear anything that's electromagnetic around anyone. I keep all stuff away, phones and everything, right? But it's, I do... So I have a blood pressure cuff beside my bed. When I wake up in the morning, before I even stand up, the cuff's on. Wow. I have a pulse oximeter that I put on as well right away, check my pulse ox, my resting heart rate, before I even stand up or have any nutrients or move, just because I want a true resting base level. I have ketone strips. I monitor my ketones 4 or 5 times a day. And I keep tracking. I was in grad school for 6 years. What do you expect me to do?
I don't know. I genuinely, I don't know. Now Phoenix is genuinely concerned about what I'm going to be pulling after this.
Well, thing is like if I'm going to talk about change, I have to be empirical about that change, right? I have to actually have data points and base points and to say. And I mean, I can empirically state that how I've gone along. I can tell you the exact levels of ketones per day because I literally track everything.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've tracked my body weight. I can tell you when I've stabilized, when I've dropped. It's like chutes and valleys around the body weight. I'll drop a bit, then I'll stay normalized.
Yeah.
Right. And all of a sudden I might drop a bit more and stay normalized. Right. So it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been some change in mass per se, but overall, I've always taken care of myself. Obviously, I own a gym that we're sitting in, so the other part of my brain is if you can beat me, I have no business training you. So and a lot of my boys out there will understand this one. I will do anything you can do better. And the second you can do better than me, then I'll find you a different coach.
Damn, I love that. I want to track everything now. I'm so jealous. I can tell you when I did the 16/8 intermittent fasting, time restricted eating, whatever you want to call it, I felt great. I was also trying to lose a bit of weight at that point. Not as easier for putting on mass, I find, in a time restricted eating, but that's another thing. The way my mom described you is someone who can put the puzzle pieces together. And I think from the 30 minutes here that we've chatted, at least, I can confidently agree with that because it seems like between your strength and conditioning background, your current knowledge, what you're doing now with the work, like, is there anything that you don't like doing or exploring or don't feel comfortable doing when someone comes into the gym?
No, conversations are conversations, and they're always opportunities. I have people ask me a myriad of questions. Now, if it's out of my scope of practice, I'm very clear. Like, that's not really my scope. Like, yeah, I took courses in dietetics in my undergrad, but I'm not a dietitian or nutritionist. So if you're going to ask me, I'll speak to some generalities, but specificities, I don't get into grams of this per kilogram of body weight because that's actually violating my scope.
Right.
I understand my wheelhouse and where I sit. I'm not an on-ice goaltending coach. I'm not. There's wonderful people that are way smarter and way more talented than I am that can do that. But I tell you, I'm an off-ice guy for them, especially when it comes to alignments, homeostasis, visual, spatial, gaze stability, vestibular function. There's some magic you can do there. So putting the puzzle pieces together, yeah, I've got 16 years of post-secondary education. I spent $136,000. It just means that, one, I know nothing. About all this education I've gotten, I know nothing because it all depends upon the study, the population that was in that study, and whether or not you actually meet those population demographics. And there's lots of studies out there. So you want to take about heart rate, talk about Kervonen formula, so 220 minus your age. Well, Kervonen's entire theory was based on the average population. So if you're an elite athlete, it falls apart. Now, if you're a master's level athlete, because the formula instantly assumes you lose a heartbeat for every year that you age. Well, we did tests when I was in grad school. We ran master's level runners, and the average maximum heart rate in these average age of 59 years of age, so 220 minus 60 for ease of math, should be 160 should be their max. Well, the average max heart rate was 198.
Whoa.
So masters runners didn't fit the study population of Kervonen. Well, every bit of equipment you step on that has that 65 to 85, that's Kervonen. So if you're a fit individual, it doesn't apply. So I know that much to be dangerous, and I know my own limitations, that I really don't know anything.
Yeah.
But when somebody comes in with an issue, I have what's called a little c curiosity, to quote Amanda Lang. I never have a preconceived bias. I don't want to know your history before I see you. I don't. Because if you tell me something, my brain's going to be going, oh, let's copy that. I can dig into that a little bit. I don't want to know. I want to see you in a blank slate. You come in, you tell me a story. I'm like, all right, well, let's have a look. And I'll see things, and I'm like, well, it appears to be this. I'm going to look at you in a sec. Well, it appears to be that. It appears to be that. I'll say it in a very specific way because I'm not giving myself confirmational bias. And I think that's where a lot of society sits right now in sports and non-sports is confirmational bias. I mean, it's so-and-so does this, and so-and-so had success, therefore this must be true. That's case study level evidence. All right, I did a surgery on somebody. I put out half their brain. I cut it out, and they functioned okay. All right, well, now it's going to apply to everyone, really? No.
I think that's the scary part right now for society and for general pop when they're listening to a conversation like this, when they hear someone who's got 16 years of knowledge, education that they've paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for, when they say they know nothing. And then you've got someone who's scrolling Instagram like, I want to get in shape. It's January 1st. I'm New Year's, new me. And they're like, see one Instagram that says I should be eating bananas because they're good nutritional value, and then I shouldn't be eating bananas because they're high sugar. You're like, holy crap. I've used bananas, but then it could be cold exposure, it could be contrast therapy.
There's a whole bunch of things you can walk down rabbit holes on. And the sentence that we've always said in my field is, those that know the least profess to know the most, and those that know the most profess to know the least, because we know that we don't know. Like any textbook you read in my field, 60% of it's true. Reason what I mean with that one is if you take VO2 max, so the maximal ability of you to take oxygen out of the environment into your tissues, well, 60% of the studies say it's the heart that's limiting, it's the pump that limits it. Mm-hmm. But there's some really good literature, A.B. Noakes out of South Africa, that shows, no, it's the muscle. Because he's taken dogs, and it's a bit of a gruesome study, had them run on a treadmill when muscles were exposed, and he's overperfused it with blood. He's given it as much blood as it can possibly take and more. Didn't change VO2 max. So is it the pump? Right? And then we can look at lactate threshold theory. Well, you can supermax. You can. I've had athletes do it. Hooder did it. So he was on a treadmill running above his lactate threshold, and he had the mental fortitude to embrace the suck just enough that he got to the 9-minute mark. And at the 9-minute mark above his lactate threshold, you literally saw his entire frame go, and he relaxed, and he ran another 13 minutes above his lactate threshold.
Whoa.
Now, the reason this comes down to, and this is some of the new literature around lactate, when I say new, I mean it's within the last decade, because that's new for us. There's these one-way lactic acid pumps that we know the heart has, because we know the heart can use lactic acid for energy during exercise. But we found them on the muscle mitochondrial walls now, too. Now, it takes a certain level of blood pH, of blood acidity, to actually turn them on, which means you have to embrace the suck. But once you do it enough, by the end of that summer, that was 3 summers ago with Hooder, by the end of the summer, it was at 7 minutes it was turning on.
So you decreased the amount of time it took.
The more often you use a pathway in the body, the more the body develops the pathway.
Right.
And that's that law of specificity. Well, if we're not specific to our modalities, like we're mixing up strength versus hypertrophy versus endurance, okay, well, we're training different things. It's the same with the enzymes for the systems.
So it's like, if you have a CrossFit athlete, for instance, compared to an ultramarathon endurance runner.
Totally different specificity.
But those pathways are forged based on what they've been doing.
Totally, that's exactly it. So a marathoner has to run 80% of their marathon in their fat metabolism and beta oxidation. They can't come out. The 80% of it has to be there, otherwise they bonk. And you see the guys that bonk because at the finish line they're crawling and they can't stand up because he went too quick. He came out of beta oxidation too early. Whereas a CrossFitter, I mean, they're primarily an anaerobic. There's a bit of type 2X is what I would say to it. That crossover fiber, it has a bit of a glycolytic side to it. And again, very specific things. Very good on concentrics, but eccentrics not so much, right? Because the weights are dropped. So, and then if I'm talking about that conversation, well, concentrics develop the muscle belly itself, eccentrics develop the tendons. So if I don't have an eccentric contraction, that slow controlled release, or negative was what you say back in the day for us old people, the tendons don't hypertrophy the same way the muscles do. Therefore, I get tendinitis, tendinosis, tendinopathy.
Okay.
Which is what we see in a lot of sports, is because we're doing Olympic lifting, but we're missing that other side of the coin.
So interesting. You think, if anything, if you look at it from an unbiased perspective, you're just doing the part that builds the muscle. But people who have lifted for years know that negative piece is actually what builds more of the muscle, right?
Well, yeah. So if I'm doing hypertrophy, I do want to engage in more eccentric-based or negative-based training because you're ripping apart the myosin and actin heads. So if I'm slowly opening my bicep under tension, well, those myosin and actin heads are trying to shorten, but the muscle's lengthening, so I'm tearing them apart. So yes, I do more muscle damage, which then creates a greater adaptation. But that can only be done for a short period of time. And it can't be done in season, which is my other bane that I see right now. And I mean, there's teams in town here that are doing 10 rep sets of squats and RDLs and Bulgarian split squats with massive weight 2 to 3 times a week, and the players can't walk. I have a goaltender that literally has to see me 1 to 2 times a week just to keep his hips moving. And this is a team that's supposed to be developing them for university scholarships.
So that's why I didn't do well when I was trying to become a bodybuilder as a hockey player, golfer in high school, eh?
Well, first off, hockey player and golf. So, I mean, the same, at least you're a goalie.
Justin Schultz can do it.
Schultze got his first hole in one this summer.
Dude, that guy, I've heard he's a stick.
He's limber, is what I'll say. But no, he's not.
A stick isn't like a really good golfer.
Oh, 100%.
Sorry.
Oh, no. Literally, if he could, if he could golf all the time, if his wife would let him, he'd golf all the time.
Yeah.
But anyway, he got his first hole in one this summer. He was in here the day after he got it. He was super stoked. But yeah, golfing, and think about it, you shoot us one way and then you golf the same way. So you're training the same damn motor program. So dear Lord, players, play tennis. Pick up something else.
Goalies. That's why goalies are the best, though. It's because we don't have one particular side we lean towards.
No, well, some goalies do. There are bias that are there. But yeah, no, goalies are, they're a spider monkey in the net. And they have to be a spider monkey in the net. So how do you train a goalie? You got to train like a spider monkey. So a lot of the work I do with goalies, especially like you take, and this name I can say, so Tompkins from Tampa Bay. He came in here training like a dinosaur. He was 3.5 4 weeks out from camp, back pain, couldn't walk. He was working with Lyle Mast, and Lyle just said, you got to go see Jimmy, or James, sorry. Players call me Jimmy. Some players, they're trying to create a new nickname now called Frenchie.
Oh.
That's A-Fram's crew. They want to call me Frenchie this summer. I'm like, if you're going to call me Frenchie, you're going to get the French. But so with Tompkins, he was in so much back pain. I'd show him the way I'd fix him, then it would get screwed up. I'm like, what the hell's going on? Like, he kept on coming back torsion. I'm like, what are you doing? So there's one day I said, okay, I'm going to fix it, and I want you to hang around here, and I want you to just do some of the stuff you'd normally do. Well, first thing he does, I turn around, and he's got 1 foot elevated on a 20-inch box doing elevated split squats with 65-pound dumbbells in each hand. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? He was doing 10 rep sets. I'm like, you're 3 weeks from camp. What are you doing right now? So we walk through all the neurology, the proprioception. We walk through the feet. I explain the pressure pads. I explain the mechanoreceptors. I explain the balance centers of the body. And then we did all that neurology and all the reprogramming from rocker board to ball work to BOSU work. And there's a specific way you train a goaltender. There's a little bit of magic in what you do. And Ephraim's a great, wonderful coach off ice. Respect him as well. And he's really good at the craft too. And him and I align in a lot of ways. So.
And I do have to refer everyone to ingoalmag.com to your 5 ways.
5 damn things.
5 damn things.
There's 5 damn things. There's a few of them out there. There's a few more coming.
Yes.
So in goal, the next 2 I'm going to do with them is 5 damn things, parents, how to assess your children. And then 5 damn things, parents, how to fix your children. Simple muscle and energy techniques that can take care of sacral torsions, cervical torsions, that are safe for parents to do, and they can stop paying people money.
We were Coach Corey Gilday, he's a tactical coach overseas right now. He was talking, he trained Shaq for 6 months back in the early 2000s. One of the things I was doing some research, learned about him was pre-competition lifting for muscle activation. Is that the same as muscle energy that you were referring to there?
No, muscle energy work is neurology. So we're actually playing with muscle spindles and Golgi tendon organs where we're trying to actually get them to turn off to release it. Because in the osteopathic world, we view the body as a geodesic dome. So we're always, the word is tensegrity. So there's 2 forms of tension in the body: discontinuous, which is your bones, and continuous, which is your muscles, fascia, connective tissue. It's the continuous tension that's causing the issues. The bones don't do a damn thing. They're just bones. Right? Like I've said before, they're poles in a dome tent. Assemble them, put them on the ground. They ain't going to do anything until you put them inside the fabric, which is your muscles and fascia. So for us, we're using muscle energy techniques to turn the body off. The one thing I'm really good at is turning people off. And that's kind of the magic in life.
That's your tagline, hey?
Tagline. I'm just
right on the website.
That, and I'm saving 1 pedestrian at a time.
Oh.
When I fix people's necks, I'm saving 1 pedestrian at a time.
There we go. That's true. That's a good point. People don't realize how much you got to turn to shoulder check,
Well, think of a goalie.
Yeah.
So if we're going to go back to that conversation, or a D-man, I saw a D-man yesterday. I actually heard one of my other podcasts, drove from Sycamus to see me. Diagnosed a concussion, not a concussion. It was just severely torsioned. But he couldn't even turn his head to the right. So how does he check back door? How does he look who's there? He can't even see who's coming. Goaltender, same thing. If I can't look left to check behind net because I have a block, my vertebrae is rotated right, I now have to leak my right shoulder open to cheat that position. But now I've leaked, so now my right side's hanging open. And then for me to get back there, I have to correct that counter movement and then initiate a program. So now I'm missing pucks. Right, so all this stuff plays in from a geodesic dome side. So you're always trying to make sure that the neurology is relaxed and the body's in homeostasis. Things are where they're supposed to be.
And I guess one more point before we get in and get some work done would be for people who are wondering, there's registered massage therapists, there's osteopaths, you can go specific work for CST that we were talking about, cranial work, you can get every type of option out there now. To your point, there are varying levels of people who are able to actually practice and do this work, what should people be sourcing out? And like, is it specific to the injury, or should they be sourcing out an osteopath first to identify where they have maybe some opportunities for improvement?
What I would say is this. You want to identify somebody that has a focus on a root cause, regardless of the discipline. There are wonderful practitioners out there, and I'm friends with many of them, and they do a wonderful job. But what they aren't is they're not dirty, rotten symptom chasers. It's the dirty, rotten symptom chasers you got to watch out for. So if I come in and say I have right shoulder pain, do you just look at my right shoulder?
You shouldn't.
Well, but there's a lot of people that do now. Like I've said before, if it's the right shoulder, my liver refers into my right shoulder just like my heart refers to my left shoulder. There's a visceral link there. Well, what if the fascia's tugging over here? If I pull on my shirt over here, it's pulling on my right shoulder over here. Well, latissimus dorsi on my right actually shares origin through the thoracolumbar fascia to my left glute. So what if my ass is just tight on the left-hand side? It's causing my shoulder. But some people look at the shoulder, oh, I'm going to IMS this. Oh, I'm just going to massage it. I'm going to do. That's a symptom chaser. Pause and find somebody that truly has that little c curiosity, that desire to look beyond what you're saying and just be, okay, well, that's interesting. Thanks for sharing. And then somebody actually assesses you. They walk through everything. But they start with the foundations. They start with Unity 1, your pelvic girdle, and your sacrum. Your spine stacks on the sacrum. Your legs hang off of your iliac crests. Might want to be a pivotal point to go to first.
Everyone's heads are in their asses.
I've said that before, yes. There is a direct link, and men are going to love this one, women too. There's a direct link between the spinal cord and your sacrum, because your brain and your spinal cord are surrounded by one continuous sheath of dura mater, which is really hard connective tissue, that goes down to about T12L1, where it splits into cauda equina, Latin for horsehair, and that inserts into S1, S2. So your head is in your ass, literally.
It's hey, let's get some work done. Let's see what we can do, and then we'll maybe like reconvene after and
100%.
share what we've found, how broken my body really is.
We'll have a look at you, and we can do that with some film and stuff that you guys can bring in after. And yeah, I'll just show you how I walk through it in some ways.
Beautiful. Former goalie, haven't played in a while, so hopefully I don't get torn apart too bad here in the YouTube comments.
Have fun. So what's going to happen here? So you're going to stand nice and normal, nice and average, and I want you to walk towards the red bag on the ground there, and then walk back. You're gonna do it twice, okay? So just start walking. So right away we're watching hips, we're trying to see the movement, we're trying to see what's happening with his hands, what's happening with his feet. As he walks, is there fluid control, or is one side kind of sticking? And right now I'm noticing one hip is kind of staying up and not going down. Go back and do it one more time. So there is a hip that's elevating up, but it's not coming back down. You can see a shoulder that's higher. You can see the hand on the left side is more internally rotated than the hand on the right, which brings me into either some pec minor tension or some fascial issues that are there. Okay, so the next thing we do is you're going to turn around and face that way. I'm going to come into picture, and here we actually landmark. So I'm going to drop down in front of camera, and first thing I do is we come in, and I'm going to look here at his iliac crest. So if I place my hands on his hip bones, which are right there, you can see that left side. The left side is sitting high, okay? Now, it appears to be high is what we would say. So if you can turn and face the mirror that way. So if I landmark, the bony bit on the back is your PSIS, and then I landmark bony bit on the front, which is your ASIS. So you can find that quad tendon that's there, and then come right up, there's ASIS. When I line up my fingers, you can just relax your arm down like that. Good, so when I line my fingers up, my middle fingers should be in line. And you can see for him, my middle fingers are like this. So females line up like this, males line up like that. He's currently here. So his hips are more rotated than a female's hips would be, okay? Which means this is definitely forward. Now, if you turn back and face the window, yeah, you have an anteriorly rotated and nominate. So now if I landmark here and I hold the PSIS, slowly lean forward from the waist. No, forward. Good, that's good, and stop. So his hips up shifting, come back up. So as he leans forward, the iliac crest is lifting independently, which is not supposed to do, so that's maybe a bit painful. Then we look at his paraspinals, because they're directly above his TVPs. His entire thoracic spine is rotated to the left. So then we come down here into lumbar. Lumbar is rotated right, which means his sacrum, technically speaking, is actually twisted with a deep sulcus on the right. So left side would appear to be closer to me, which that happens in neutral as a sacral compensation. So sacrum sitting here, spine sitting here, sacrum's twisted this way, lumbar spine's decided to go for a walkabout over there. Now, if he looks down and leans forward just a little bit, and he goes into flexion, that's good there. He goes into flexion, all of those rotations disappear, which means there isn't truly a spinal rotation. There's a compensation for the sacrum. Come back up. Now look up to the roof and lean back. We check in neutral, flexion, and extension. Same thing. I don't see a major rotation throughout the spine. They've all kind of cleaned up. Okay, there's a little something in his lumbar spine here. Coming up tall again, but when he comes back into neutral and relaxes, now I can clearly see, yes, this finger's closer to me, his spine's rotated here. That lets me know it's a sacral compensation down here, okay? And then as a goalie, if this is twisted, well, we know this is twisted, so if I landmark on his ears, you can see my fingers, his head is sitting off like this because it's mirroring his sacrum. So how the heck does this guy even track a puck, right?
Oh, wow.
And that's how we kind of look at it. You're not tracking properly, right? So now fixing this is actually super easy, okay? So what I'll do is we'll slide table in, I'll come on this side. So I can get you to lie down on your back, head over here. Okay, so first thing we always do with any human frame is I want to know how your fascia is working. And I mean, right now he lies down on the table instantly. If I look at his shoulders, they're well off the chest. So he's done a lot of chest work. You're trying to get into the bar, basically, right now is what I'm seeing. So like this guy's elevated off the table more so than this one, okay? And that's the side that was also high. So when the iliac crest rotates forward, it pushes your rib cage up. So I'm seeing this stuff over here, right?
Does that have anything to do with my golf from a young age? Hockey bag on this side.
It can be some postural, but I mean, you definitely have some trap tension. Both, and then maybe a bit more trap tension on the side, but nothing crazy. Okay. But it's definitely pec minor, right inside there. Right, so some fascial work you can do there. But the one thing we do look at is we try and look at fascial drag. So you have fascial slings in your body, right? So if I grab legs and just I relax the slings, first thing I check is internal rotation, and you can see internal rotation is slightly better on one side than the other. Okay. So this side here, this is not internally rotating. Right. So your ability to get down into butterfly on this leg is going to be significantly more limited. So now I start just a simple drag just to relieve it. Then when I let go, what I want to see is, when I pull on one leg, I should see a clean link to your chin where it travels all the way up. And right there, I'm not seeing as clean as I want. The head is moving, which is positive, but the leg's not really moving separate from the hips. This is even worse. This one's just not doing it whatsoever. There's really no movement. So you have a block right here for sure in your fascia. And
Shouldn't be laughing, but.
No, but that's the hip, right?
Yeah.
So this side here, I should see that foot move, and I do see that draw all the way down. So this sling, this fascial line, this Thompson-Meyer chain is relatively clear. So then I come to the other side, and then I pull this side, and there's literally nothing. His toes don't even move in that opposite leg. There's nothing down there. So like his hip's just not connected anymore. His body's decided this is no longer mine, right? So when we look at this, there's a series of stuff we would do. There's a general osteopathic treatment. There's circumduction, leg drops, everything else we would do. What I think is relevant is to show how easy it is to fix some things. Okay. So we're talking about 5 damn things for the hips, right? There's some muscle energy technique that I do just to correct that. And we know that this side's currently anteriorly rotated, okay? So I'm gonna focus on this side. Now, what we'll look at first, he's a goaltender, so you should have good internal rotation, right?
This is my PGA Tour leg, I was told.
Is it? Okay, perfect, good. So here's neutral. When I go to internally rotate, the foot should come open to 45 degrees.
Sure. Not quite. Keep going, keep pulling.
No, that's where I felt the first resistance. So that's feather barrier. Like, this is like, literally I can feel the body stop me right here. So 0, maybe 10. Okay, now I can try and force it. I can't even get to 40, and I'm forcing that right now, right? That's not comfortable. But the crazy thing is, when you look at this, it's because of the head of the femur is being sucked up into the acetabulum or the socket from the muscle tension. So we can do a couple simple things. So this is down my leg. Relax your leg. Good. Oh, there's already a click there. Yay, he's popping. Right, so you do some circumduction, 1, because you're trying to get synovial fluid out, but 2, it's also a diagnostic. I'm trying to see where is it grabbing. Where is his brain saying, hey, I don't like this, and that's right there. When I come into internal rotation, I try and cycle through, it's like, gug, 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 gug. I can feel the central nervous system going, no, thank you. So we start there, then we do a passive SI, just passive leg drop, nice and relaxed. you're just tractioning the SI joint. Good. Here, then I'll get into a bit of in flare, out flare, push up. So now he's pushing his pelvic girdle up into my hand, I'm driving it back down, then relax, then I bring in what's called Rudy's pulsing, just to try and loosen a bit, push up. So we're basically taking the pelvic girdle and trying to splay the bone out, and then let it come back, and relax. Good. Do it one more time, and then relax. Good. Next, I'll warm up the pubic symphysis joint. I have a special phrase for when this one happens. Gently push in, please. Oh, a little bit there.
Was that what Logan Couture? Did you see what he just was dealing with that?
Yeah. So this is your pubic symphysis joint. When your hips anteriorly rotated, your pubic symphysis joint, the one side anteriorly rotates or anteriorly displaces. So you do what's called a shotgun technique.
Right.
To put it back into place. Good. So I want you to push a little hard. Push hard, nice and hard. Good. Relax a bit. Good. Good. Once more. Good. I call it popping your mangina. Okay. Push out. Good, so now I use the glutes. Come on, push and resist me. Don't let me close. Good. Push again. I'm using the glutes to pull apart the back of your pelvic girdle. Good. Nice and relaxed. Good. A bit more force than we normally do, but that's good. Everyone wants to try and beat me for some reason. Okay. So with muscle energy technique, we're going to do about 10%.
Okay.
So I'm going to come to feather barrier, and feather barrier is that first point where you feel resistance from the central nervous system. You don't perceive a stretch. Like, right there's your feather barrier. I can feel it. You're not feeling a stretch at all, right? But that's where your brain is turning on saying, hey, I don't like it anymore. So from here, push the foot back into my hand, right? Gentle, 10%. I'm a big man. I can lean if you want. Good, and release. So all we're trying to do is, so this is internal rotation. It's already loosened a little bit. Just from the circumduction and the GOT and a couple things that you can see, now I'm getting a bit better movement. All right, so push, hold. So 10% effort, 6 to 10 seconds, 3 to 5 times in each position. It's the beginning of the 5 damn things. So you're releasing the glutes. Knees bent. You can do this by putting your hands around your knee, pushing up into it and resisting it. Okay. You can use a towel around your foot as well if you can't quite get to your knee.
Right.
Which some people maybe can't get there. So again, you see each time I'm pausing, so I'm counting to that 6 to 10 seconds. When I release, you notice I cycle the joint because I'm trying to get the muscle spindles to move. Right?
Get that fluid out?
Well, no, because that way when I come back in, there's a new feather barrier. Okay. If I don't articulate the muscle fibers and the muscle spindles, I won't feel the next feather barrier, right? So then from there, we go to pure hamstrings.
Okay.
That's great. Okay, bend your knee and push down.
I worked them yesterday. Bend it and push down.
There you go. Okay, 10%. Come on.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Come on. Push.
Sorry.
We had to reposition. Okay, so you hold it again, 6 to 10, 3 to 5. So you relax. Now again, I cycle the joint. Then I come back up. Oh, you look a little further. Oh, magic. Push. All we're doing by doing muscle energy, if we do it properly at the feather barrier, we turn the muscle spindles off so it allows the range of motion to come back, right? And now, I'm going to do 3 simple, magic, push. And that's just neurology. So you're always born with this flexibility. Your body just forgets that it's there because you sit all the time.
Right.
Which you're no longer, playing goaltender anymore. You're driving a truck around and sitting in chairs. Okay.
Exactly.
So now we go straight leg raise. So this is glutes and hamstrings. Push straight down. Good. And we just resist it, 6 to 10. Always watch your body position. You notice I'm always repositioning stuff so my mass is on the far side because this way I can just hang out. How do I survive 8 to 10 hours a day? Positional awareness. Push. So now 3 stretches like that. And then you would attack the 4th one, which we go back to internal rotation. So nice and relaxed. And now, what's happened?
It's opened up.
But what did I do? All I've done is I've turned off 2 muscles so far. And what it does is it lets that head of the femur drop out of the socket, so now I can internally rotate. So does butterfly hurt a goaltender? Or does a lack of internal rotation hurt a goaltender? And this is what I've been trying to say. So now that I've done this, now I can actually work on internal rotation. So bring this to feather barrier, push in here. 1, 2, 3. So he's pushing into my forearm, nice and relaxed, release, I come back out, come back up again, push. 1, 2, 3, 4, come back out. Good, push again. So now I'm working on internal rotation. Now you want to mind the MCL. You don't want to torque on it too much. This is 10% effort. You're in charge of how much you hurt yourself is what I'll always say, right? But you can see that internal rotation now, way cleaner.
So is that as a goaltender then, to avoid the split squats with 60s in your hand, should you be focused on ensuring that you're just making sure your mobility is at a level? Because at a certain point, getting stronger doesn't help you in your job?
It doesn't help you at all. And the more mass you put on, the lower your strength to mass ratio goes if you're not working on it. If your strength to mass ratio drops, you have less power. You're less explosive. So you're slower. So goaltenders, I mean, you want to be positional average, which is gangly and lean. If you want to be bigger, well, buy a larger shirt underneath and put on bigger pads, right? But keep your spryness is what I would say. So from here, the next magic of 5 damn things is you can do this with a textbook, a yoga block, a ball. What you do is you take a yoga block or ball and you're going to place it underneath the bum cheek. I'm going to use my hand, so my thumb tucks in because this is medical, not biblical. Here. So we rotate over and you take a yoga block, a book, or a ball and put it right underneath the bum cheek there. And then you come back again to feather barrier. So now that I'm here, he's going to push into me. So push up, straight up, get there. And I'm going to pull up on the butt. So I'm pulling up as I go, and I'm holding this for 6 to 10. Release, good. We come back up, push again. You notice how it just let go even more, right? Because you're rotating your own bone. I'm just blocking it by holding the ischial tuberosity with a bit of tension, and you're pushing into my frame. And release, good. We come back down. Oh, even more. Push. You notice you cycle the joint. Okay, good. So now you work with that. Come back again.
Ready to go play again.
Technically, well, you look at it, you were stuck here, and now we're here. And that's what 5 damn things is. Every goaltender should be doing this when they go to bed, when they wake up, when they get to the rink, because this is when you'll injure yourself. When you're stuck here, you're forcing it into butterfly, which you can't get to. So stand up and walk around now, see how that feels. We just did one side. Walk around.
Oh, yeah.
So you see that left side, the butt cheek goes up and down now. It's not going, right?
Yeah, my right side feels tight now.
Well, I know normally I treat bilaterally because that's exactly what the brain does.
Yeah.
So your brain's no longer paying attention to those nociceptors and stretch receptors that were screaming on your left side. So now it's picking up the right side because your brain pays attention to what's screaming the loudest. So if I pinch your forearm and I hold it, and then I stick a needle in your calf, you're going to feel the calf, but you're going to forget the forearm. It's the same that's happening right now. So one thing we have to do next is, so that's 5 damn things. That's how you can keep your hips actually level and keep the range there. Then there's the sacral side that we're going to do. So you're going to lie down your stomach and come back in frame. So lie on your tummy. Good. Yeah. So now, for this one, is there any way we can come in to watch? Good. Okay. Because what you're going to do is when we're ready this one, I'm going to get you to put your forehead onto your hands like so.
Sure.
Good. Okay. So, right, because I'm going to be looking right here, okay, in this area. Because what I want to show is, this is something for me that any parent can do this. This is not rocket science, okay? So even with your phone, if you want to come in and look. So what's going to happen here? So we're going to look at a sacrum. So we've set the one hip that was lesioned. I haven't treated the other one. Normally I'd go bilateral. For the sake of brevity and time, we're just going to look at this. But the next thing we do is look at the sacrum. So he's lying on the table. His sacrum's sitting right here like this. What I'm curious about is which way has it rotated and which way has it side bent, okay? So you have them lying face down, head in neutral, so you have a nice neutral spine. You open up the SI joints by roughly opening the legs to the size of the table, right? And now his SIs are open. How you find them, on the back of the body, there's these little bony bits here called your PSIS. You can feel them, they're little bony circles. From here, the sentence we say, we go in a nickel, up a nickel, and we push down. And right away I can see my right thumb is deeper, it's into the deep sulcus. So this appears to be rotated right. What we do is, if you can pop up onto your forearms there, David. Good. So he pops up. Okay, good. Still there. Drop back down. Good. So there, and then I come back down to sacrum, and I go on either side. So he appears to be right on right. So pop up into your forearms again. Okay, so that gets worse. It doesn't change. Come back down. So I checked the deep sulcus. This appeared to be deep. But then when I go to the inferior lateral angles, so his sacrum is rotated like, it looks like it's like this. When it comes up into sphinx, this one doesn't correct, which means this side's actually protruding. It's actually sticking up. So you have a sacral torsion where you're sticking higher on your left side, but then dropping on the right, which gives you an oblique issue. So to fix this one, super easy. I come to that PSI, so it's there. I'm gonna land, I'm gonna come right on the sacrum here. Okay, I'm gonna put some pressure, big breath in. And release, good. So I'm just pushing down, big breath. And As he relaxes, I take a bit more pressure. Big breath. And release. Good. Big breath. And release. It's called respiratory kinesthesis. We use the breath to do the adjustments for us. So now I come back in again. Thumbs have leveled off, and we come here. And you can't cheat this because I'm on the bone. My thumbs are now even. Whereas before, my thumbs were this way. As I drive into the bone, those are now level and square. Okay? Stand up and walk around now and see how that feels.
Better, yeah.
Yeah.
And it feels, now this one actually feels like you did the work on it too.
Well, because the sacrum was stuck.
Yeah.
Your sacrum was protruding on the left-hand side. So when it protrudes that way, you're jammed up. Like that's how, you have what's called non-physiological. Your body can't compensate for that alignment, so everything feels jammed. Now, the next bit of magic is that neck of yours. So a stick has two ends. I've only dealt with one of them. I got to deal with another. So if you want to lie down with your head at the end up here, so on your back.
Okay.
Okay. Now this is such an easy one. Anyone can do this one. It's a muscle energy technique. We saw his ears were crooked, right? So we come down in, and as a parent or as a teammate, all you do is your hand placement. So if I go 2 fingers in front, 2 fingers behind, your occipital atlantal joint sits right behind the nose. So for him, if I palpate behind his skull, I try and move it. Yeah, okay. This side I can move. This side's like, no, thank you. Left side's stuck, right? So I can feel the vertebrae doesn't want to move. So his vertebrae is rotated. So all I do is I come here, I open the OA joint, open the facet, and I'm just going to hold here. Now this is a neck, so he's only going to push with 5 to 10% effort, but push into my thumb here. Push and resist. You never talk about 5% means. And release. Good. So we come back out, open again, push again, gentle. There you go. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Good. Come back out, open, open again. So I'm doing this in a neutral neck. I'm going to go into extension next as well. Good. So I come back. That was 3 times. Then I come up into extension, open the OA, open facet. Same thing. Turn. Now I'm not snapping the neck. I'm not twisting the neck. I'm not thrusting the neck. I'm holding a specific articulating technique. And then I'm making him use his muscles to pull the vertebrae back itself. And it's kind of the magic of osteopathy is we don't fight the body. We let the body do everything itself. Good. I'm going to come back up. I'll do once more. Push back here. And relax. Good. So I'm going to come back out. Now I can't cheat that. I come back into that exact same spot. How does it feel now?
Better.
Yeah, it's moving. Mm-hmm. It actually moves like it should. So then you start. But now it feels stuck on the, right there. So right next vertebrae down, so C3, C4, stuck. So here,
got it there.
Yeah. So I'm going to hold them in a specific articulated technique, block again. Yeah, just gently turn, yeah. And then release. So I'm pushing on the transverse process of the vertebrae with about 10, 20 grams of pressure. Turn here. And he's turning with 5%. And all I do is I block it. If I'm applying force at the top of the stick and I'm pressing in the middle of the stick, the fulcrum's where my finger is on the TVP because of that. And release. So you're directing all the energy into that area. And once again, simple adjustment, just a muscle energy technique. You just got to understand your anatomy and how to palpate, and you're fine. And release. Good. So now we come back out. Same thing. I come back in. Oh, look at that bit of butter. That's nice, eh? Mm-hmm. Now the other side feels tight almost, eh? Mm-hmm. So just a little there. Push here. Now imagine a goalie. You couldn't turn your neck. Your vertebrae is rotated left, so for you to see to the right side, you literally have to open your left shoulder and expose that left top corner.
Does that come down to sleeping as well? Should be
posture,
people sleeping on their back, posture?
Posture matters. Okay. Whatever position you're in, just put yourself into position. Just nice and relaxed, looking straight up. Put yourself into a position where the body's in neutrality. So if you're on your side, put a pillow between your knees, keep your pelvic girdle level. Because if you don't have a pillow between your knees, your pelvic girdle's tilting away from you. Because the top leg's drawing it away from your upper body, which then creates a bit of a shortening on one side, lengthening on the other. If your pillow's not an appropriate height, well, I mean, I have a pillow that I travel with, hotels, airplanes, everywhere. I never change because my neck stays in a certain alignment.
Do you track while you travel all your metrics as well?
I do, yes.
Nice.
Everything comes with me. Just data points.
If you were to tell general population to track one metric, what would it be?
Resting heart rate.
Okay.
Every day before you go to bed, resting heart rate. That's the one indicator of overreaching, overtraining, stress. My resting heart rate sits at 42. which is people tell me is low. It's not. And that, I mean, there's Olympic athletes that are down in the 30s. Freedivers can actually lower their heart rates down to 2 beats a minute. Well,
I think I was low 40s when I was with my whoop.
there you go. Can you feel that neck now?
Yeah.
So I haven't cheated that, I haven't snapped it, I haven't thrust, but you can feel how loose that is. Okay, so now I'm going to support your head, roll to one side without lifting your head off the table. Use your body. Roll in the fetal position like in yoga. Do you do yoga?
Not as anymore.
Okay, so roll your shoulders, roll everything over. Now look at the table and sit up. Okay, sit up, sit up. There you go, who's a good boy? Okay, all right, so stand up tall and turn your neck. Just see how that feels.
Yeah, way better.
Now stand up and walk. Now you might be dizzy, so be careful. So when you walk, now we've set the hips, we've set the base of the spine, and then we've set the top of the turret of the spine as well. So now on the ice, you're in homeostasis. Your ability to track a puck and see a puck's better. Now, what I always do with athletes afterwards is I do what's called resynaptizing them.
Okay.
So I do a bunch of balance and stability drills, goggle drills, tracking drills, especially
That's
with
the
goalies.
one-footed.
One-footed stuff, but then, so I have some of my buddy's goggles over there. So I do the gaze stability work with tracking and bouncing, with goggles, without goggles, working on such track optics and low mast. A lot of stuff there because it really helps to cement the adjustment. If you resynaptize the brain to the new alignment, it stays.
Right.
And that's
sticky.
called sticky treatment.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's what you need.
How'd that feel?
Thank you very much. That was
You're
amazing. Where should people be sourcing out your stuff? Wendland.ca?
Easiest place to go. You'll find me there for sure. Now, I am only one man. You know, like I said, there's no such thing as maintenance. I only see people 3 to 5 times. A lot of the times lately it's been 3. It's kind of the magic. So I always have space. If you want to see me directly, if it's online, you can see me online. If there's not a spot, if it's a major issue, reach out by email and I'll try and squeeze people in how I can.
Amazing.
But if I can't treat you, I'll find somebody that will.
Yeah. And more athletes should be sourcing out 5 damn ways, finding out the way, the Wendland way.
Well, it's actually, there's a book coming. It's called The Way. Is actually what it's called. And it's a manual osteopathic approach to health, wellness, and sport.
Okay.
It started off as being goaltender specific, and then I broadened it. And what this is sort of my manifesto. So when I retire, which we all do at some point, you know, there's a path there that people can still tag onto, and there's students that I'm mentoring that can kind of fill the gap.
Well, one of the things that we like to bring up on every episode is the fact that not everyone might be the high performance athlete, but we're all human beings. We all need to be able to move. Yeah. I moved better today. You folks saw that. Thank you so much, James. I really appreciate it.
That's
Jimmy,
amazing.
However you want to be referred to.
Jimmy or Frenchie, you choose. There we go. Nice.
There we go. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. That was awesome.
Thank you. I'm going to keep my gaze in one spot, not the ground. So here, I'm here. Now I'm going to go inside the center. Outside the center. Inside the center. Outside the center. Inside the center. Outside. And I'm wearing high heels, so I don't have my bare feet. But you can see it's crisp. Okay? Now do that. That's your skate edge.
Same foot?
Same foot. Good. So now you've seen the behavior. Nice and relaxed. Gaze in one spot. Don't move it. Inside edge. Inside. Nope. Inside edge. Touch the ground. There. Now come to center. Outside edge. Center. Ha. I'm going to show you how to trick this. Okay? Good. So I'm going to pop over here for 2 seconds. Okay. Keep on going. Give me a few more reps. Please. Better. Good. Okay. So here. Oh, this hand. Now bounce the ball and catch it. Look at the ball. Look at the ball. Look at the blue ball. Bounce it higher. Look. Move your head. Bounce a little high. Okay. Move it. Okay. Good. Okay. So you're still staying on the ground trying to use your peripheral.
Yeah.
You track it. Don't be that goalie. Track it. Look at the ball. Good. Okay. 2 more. Good. And again, once more. Good. Give me the ball back. Now do your inside outside edges again. Right away. Inside outside edges. Same foot. Don't change. So what did I just do? I took away your frontal lobe. I took away your brain and your rational part. By giving you a task to focus on, because this became autonomic.
Yeah,
now I'm giving your frontal lobe back.
You shoved the needle in the cap.
Literally. And now look at your calm down, you're relaxed. Now let's make it even better. No, that's okay. Good, put those on. Now I want them down so the bottom is below your eye. Okay? Just look at me. Put them down even more. want them right there. That's all I want, okay? So hit the ball. Now you can't cheat. So now bounce the ball and catch it. You gotta look at the goddamn ball now. Look at the ball, track it, catch it. No, you can't look at your foot. You gotta feel your foot.
So you want me to track
Just
like this?
track the balls, catch it. You try to cheat, don't cheat. Look at the ball. This is the problem with goaltenders. They don't turn their head anymore. They fucking cheat with their eyes. Again, track it. Nope, you weren't tracking. You're staring at the ground. Let go of it. Look at the ball. Trust yourself. Good. See how I'm at that? Yeah, see you again. Drop back down again. Good. Good. Drive up sideways. Up. Ah! You don't even know how to control your swing.
No.
Simple drill. So what should players be doing? Connecting their body. Alright? Let's hold it, yeah, good. Try and drive back up straight. Okay, a little better, but stand up tall. Good, so now you're learning how to balance glute, knee, glute, and adductor while using that posterior fascial sling from the right shoulder to the left butt cheek.